enjoy the occasional scary story, then you've come to the right place. Not only do I tell ghost stories, but I stick to stories that might have a question. Do you believe in the paranormal? Comment below. Hit the subscribe button and the notification bell because I do upload regularly. Make sure that you are wearing headphones for this video because it's going to be a nice, soothing, soft-spoken and whisper video. Let's get started. Today's title is simply Marilyn. Marilyn. A single name says it all. Eternally beautiful. Eternally young. Marilyn Monroe is one of the greatest film icons of all time. Her spirit apparently haunts all sorts of places she frequented during her short time on Earth, but perhaps none more so than the crypt in which she lies. It was a good day to be there. Most of the Marilyn Monroe fanatics, the other Marilyn Monroe fanatics, Amy corrected herself, were there on August 5th, the anniversary of the actress's death. Amy instead chose to visit the cemetery on June 1st, the day Monroe was born. Her birth name, of course, was Norma Jean Mortensen. She was then baptized Norma Jean Baker. Sure, others had stopped by that day, lots of people. That was obvious from the number of bright red lip prints left behind where her admirers had tenderly kissed the crypt. But it was nowhere near the number that descended on Pierce Brothers' Westwood Village Memorial Park and Mortuary each August. Once upon a time, Amy had made ends meet as a Marilyn impersonator on the sidewalk in front of Grauman's Chinese Theater. She had been told since her teens back in the Midwest that she bore a striking resemblance to the screen idol. The first time she heard it, Amy didn't really have a clear idea of what the legend looked like. But after a little research, the hours of staring in the mirror, she had to agree. If she had blonde hair, the right color lipstick, some prudent plucking of the eyebrows, and a carefully applied beauty mark just beneath the left cheek, she would bear an uncanny resemblance to the late movie actress If she were to put herself in the billowing white dress and stand over a ventilated grate, well, it would be magic time. Her public debut as Marilyn was at a Halloween dance during her senior year of high school. Her boyfriend Bobby borrowed a baseball uniform and went as Joe DiMaggio, Monroe's second husband. How sad, Amy thought, sitting there in California. A decade later, Monroe's marriage to the ball player survived just 11 months. Amy's love affair back home didn't last that long. But DiMaggio continued to carry a torch for Marilyn after their breakup. The slugger and the siren had gotten divorced, in large part because he couldn't come to terms with having to share Marilyn with the world. Nevertheless, he still loved her and never remarried. When she was admitted to Payne Whitney Psychiatric Clinic in February 1961, following the breakup of her marriage to playwright Arthur Miller, it was the Yankee Clipper she turned to for help. From then on, they remained close, officially just friends. But on August 1st, 1962, he made plans to travel to the West Coast to ask her to remarry him. Before he could get there, she was dead. It was DiMaggio who claimed her body from the coroner and made all of the funeral arrangements. He kept the service small and quiet, with the ravenous public and press kept outside the cemetery gates. Marilyn's acting coach, Lee Strasberg, delivered the graveside eulogy. For the next 20 years, DiMaggio had 6 fresh red roses placed by her crypt 3 times a week. To the day he died, he never spoke about Marilyn to the media, keeping the memories private in his heart. 37 years after Monroe passed over, the power hitter faced his own final hours. His last words were, reputedly, "I'll finally get to see Marilyn." Amy stood facing the tomb in the corridor of memories, her own red rose in hand. Dozens more were scattered on the ground in front of the crypt, remnants from the many mourners earlier that day. DiMaggio had picked the cemetery in the Westmore district of Los Angeles, partly because it was not the graveyard that tourists usually visited. That distinction belonged to Hollywood Memorial Park Cemetery, now Hollywood Forever Cemetery, or perhaps Forest Lawn, Glendale. All that changed after Monroe's interment, however. A pilgrimage to Marilyn's grave became one of the must-do activities trips to Tinseltown. Once at the cemetery, sightseers, especially those who wanted to get within 6 feet of their favorite stars, as the now defunct Graveline tours used to advertise, would discover that the Westwood graveyard is a veritable who's who of Hollywood. But most day trippers make a beeline to Maryland. After Amy's move to Hollywood and her brief stint as a Marilyn Monroe impersonator, she had settled into a real job, as her mother would have called it, and hung up her pleated white dress and blonde wig for good. But she never lost her fascination, her sense of kinship with the actress. She came to the crypt several times a year, almost always on Marilyn's birthday. She liked to be there late in the day when the sun ducked behind the tall towers surrounding the grounds, their long shadows stretching across the carefully manicured grass. It was getting late, and Amy took a long last look over the small cemetery. The place was empty. She turned to say her farewell to Marilyn, as she had so many times before. "See you soon," she whispered softly. To Amy's amazement, as she stared at the crypt, a light, glowing mist seemed to take shape, suspending itself in the air directly in front of the brass plate bearing the actress's name. The cloud moved slightly left, then back to the right, almost as if it had a life of its own. Amy had never seen anything like it. Then, as quickly as the haze had appeared, it was gone. Amy stayed glued to the spot, unable to move. She had heard the legends about Marilyn's ghost appearing all over Tinseltown. Her apparition is sometimes seen in a mirror and poolside at the Hollywood Roosevelt Hotel, and her specter showed up for years in the ladies' room, adjacent to the lobby bar in the Knickerbocker Hotel. Marilyn used to sneak in the back doors of the building to meet DiMaggio at the popular night spot. Her phantom has also been spied pacing the sidewalk in front of the house where she died. And her spirit was rumored to occasionally materialize there at her crypt. Some people have said that they've taken pictures of the shimmering vapor, and when they later checked the photos, Marilyn's faint image could be seen floating inside the haze. Amy couldn't be sure what she'd seen, but oddly, she was comforted by the vision rather than being afraid. She had felt a welcoming presence as it appeared, an indefinable but warm, caring radiance. Amy wouldn't tell many of her friends about the experience. She was sure that even those who knew her best think she had been hallucinating. But over time, she came to accept what true believers could have told her from the start. Marilyn had dropped in to say hello. Here's a little more for you. Besides Marilyn's crypt, 4 other graves in the cemetery are of special interest to fans of the paranormal, even though they're not haunted. Victor Killian, a popular character actor in films until he was caught up in the 1950s blacklist, is among those interred there. In 1979, at the age of 88, he was beaten to death by a stranger he had invited back to his Hollywood apartment. To this day, his ghost is said to haunt the sidewalk in front of Commons Chinese Theater, where he is thought to have met his assailant. Richard Conte, also found in the Memorial Park, is most remembered for his work in B-movies and film noir. What's fascinating to ghost aficionados, however, is his tombstone. There's an engraving of a mystic pyramid in each of the 4 corners and an inscription that reads, Richard Nicholas Peter Conte, 1910 to 1975 to question mark. A question mark? Was he planning to return? There have always been rumors that strange, spectral events sometimes take place on the sets of movies dealing with evil spirits and the supernatural, including Rosemary's Baby, The Exorcist, The Omen, The Amityville Horror, and The Entity. The Poltergeist trilogy was also supposedly cursed. The 2 young female stars of the movie, Heather O'Rourke and Dominique Dunne, the daughter of author Dominic Dunne, died unnaturally young, and both are buried in Westwood. Toby Hooper directed the original Poltergeist in 1982 from a story and screenplay by Steven Spielberg. The tale centered on an average American family, the Freelings, that begins to have trouble when the younger daughter, the angelic Carol Ann, played by O'Rourke, discovers that a static-filled channel on their television is a conduit to the spirit world. The girl's creepy cry, "They're here," became a catchphrase for the movie. As the story unfolds, a demonic creature attempts to suck her into the netherworld, using a closet as its portal to the unknown. Success at the box office, just under $122 million worldwide, guaranteed 2 sequels. Reports surfaced from the beginning that paranormal activity regularly occurred while the movies were being shot. Most of the phenomena were the kinds of playful pranks known to be typical of poltergeists, such as chairs moving and desktop objects shifting around on their own. It's said that JoBeth Williams, who portrayed Carol Ann's mother, reported she'd return home each night to find that photos on her walls had tilted. During filming of the second feature, many of the cast members complained of chronic headaches, but none of the incidents seemed life-threatening or particularly dangerous. 6 years after the series ended, the Simi Valley house that was used for exterior shots of the Freelings' home was damaged in the powerful Northridge earthquake. But with the $20 billion in property losses caused by the quake throughout greater Los Angeles, the damage to the Freeling house was hardly unique. Probably the main reason the creepy legends have persisted about the poltergeist sets was the death of 4 cast members. Between the time the first and the third movies were released, Dunn, who played the older sister in the original Poltergeist, was choked to death by her boyfriend, John Thomas Sweeney, in 1982 when she was only 22. The third film was awaiting release when O'Rourke, who was only 12 years old, died of cardiac arrest from septic shock following surgery to repair an obstructed bowel in 1988. The other 2 actors died of natural causes. Julian Beck of stomach cancer in 1985 and Will Sampson in 1987 after an operation for kidney failure. Neither is buried at Westwood Village Memorial Park. Clearly, the death of the 4 poltergeist actors, all within such a short period, were merely a coincidence, wasn't it? In an interview, the late Zelda Rubinstein, who played the medium Tangina Barons in all 3 movies, said she didn't believe that there were unseen forces at work. She personally never witnessed any of the unexplainable disruptions that supposedly took place during filming. All those animated skeletons and spirited spooks you saw in our films, she pointed out, were special effects for the screen. Perhaps the spectral activity was nothing more than a publicist's dream. But you still have to wonder. I do hope that you enjoyed today's stories. A little bit of Marilyn and a little bit of Poltergeist, one of my favorites. If you enjoy these kind of videos, please subscribe and hit the notification bell because I do upload regularly. And if this is something that you like, hit the like button and comment below. Is there a story that you would like to hear? Thank you again for watching,